Dolly Parton. She is a dream come true, getting to work with her. I mean, she beat you there. That was so aggravating to me. I was going to be there, ready to go.
I tried to stay silent for years, but not anymore. At 70, country queen Reba McEntire is finally pulling back the curtain, and what she reveals is jaw-dropping. In a rare moment of raw honesty, Reba names the 6 singers she truly hated the most. From deep betrayals to long-standing rivalries, this list will change how you see country music's sweetest star forever. Taylor Swift. In March 2024, country music icon Reba McEntire found herself at the center of an unexpected social media firestorm, one she didn't create, didn't condone, and was quick to shut down. A satirical Facebook post exploded online, falsely claiming that Reba had lashed out at pop superstar Taylor Swift, reportedly calling her an entitled little brat, following Swift's high-profile appearance at the Super Bowl. The claim came from a known satire page that frequently publishes outlandish clickbait-style stories meant for entertainment. But in today's social media landscape, where misinformation often spreads faster than truth, many fans and casual readers failed to realize it was a joke. The fake quote quickly began circulating on Twitter, Instagram, and comment threads, fueling heated debates among fan bases. Reba, who had performed the national anthem at Super Bowl 58 just weeks prior, was suddenly dragged into a controversy she had absolutely no part in. According to the viral post, she was supposedly furious about the media attention Taylor Swift received during the game, particularly for her appearances in the VIP suites cheering on her boyfriend, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. The fabricated quote portrayed Reba as jealous and critical, 2 qualities that starkly contrast her decades-long reputation for professionalism, kindness, and support of other women in music. Rather than let the false narrative spiral, Reba took swift and elegant action. She addressed the situation head-on in an Instagram story, posting a simple but powerful statement: "Please don't believe everything you see on the internet. I did not say that about Taylor. Taylor is a wonderful artist, strong role model, and has done so much good for so many people." In just a few lines, Reba extinguished the faucet with her trademark grace. She didn't attack the people who spread the rumor or issue legal threats. Instead, she used the moment to lift up another artist and remind her fans that not everything online is to be trusted. Her message was clear: she would not be baited into unnecessary drama, especially not against someone she respects. Reba's defense of Taylor wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a reflection of her values. Over the years, Reba has quietly mentored and supported younger artists across genres, maintaining a dignified presence in an industry that thrives on rivalry. Her praise of Taylor Swift, whom she called a strong role model, was more than just damage control, it was genuine. And for Taylor Swift fans, many of whom are quick to rally against any perceived slight, Reba's message was warmly received. Comment sections across platforms lit up with support, thanking Reba for her kind words and praising her for shutting down the rumor without adding fuel to the fire. The incident served as a modern-day lesson in media literacy. A joke post, stripped of its satirical context, went viral and almost succeeded in creating a wedge between 2 of the most beloved female artists in American music. But thanks to Reba's quick thinking and classy response, the moment became one of unity rather than division. In a world where celebrities often find themselves embroiled in online battles, Reba McEntire once again proved that grace under pressure is her default setting. Rather than let her name be used to stir controversy, she chose clarity, kindness, and truth and reminded the world that character still matters in country music. Tammy Wynette. Among the many greats Reba McEntire has admired throughout her career, one name consistently stands out with a special glow. Tammy Wynette, the woman behind enduring classics like Stand By Your Man and Divorce, was in Reba's eyes not just a pillar of country music, but a master of emotional storytelling, a trailblazer whose impact reached far beyond the stage. Reba has long spoken about Tammy with a deep sense of reverence, often placing her near the very top when asked to name country music's most powerful and influential voices. To Reba, Tammy wasn't just a legend, she was a lesson in vulnerability, strength, and sincerity. She once remarked that watching Tammy Wynette perform was like attending a masterclass in how to connect with an audience, not with vocal fireworks or elaborate staging, but with raw emotion, grace, and truth. Reba admired the way Tammy could lay her heart bare in every song she sang. Whether Tammy was singing about heartbreak, sacrifice, or the quiet ache of everyday life, she did so with a conviction that never felt performative. Reba, who built her own career on songs that told stories of love, loss, and resilience, found deep inspiration in that ability. It helped shape how she approached her own catalog, how to bring more than just a voice to a song, but a life lived. Their relationship wasn't just one of distant admiration. Reba had the great honor of sharing the stage with Tammy on a few occasions, and she often reflected on those moments as some of the most meaningful of her career. For a young woman who grew up on Tammy's records, to sing alongside her idol was not only surreal but deeply humbling. And yet, according to Reba, Tammy never treated her like a junior partner or an upstart. She was gracious, kind, and generous with her praise. There was a kindred spirit between them, a quiet bond of understanding that passed between two women who knew what it meant to bare their souls for a crowd night after night. Reba has shared in interviews that Tammy's humility made a lasting impression. Despite her fame and the burdens she carried, both personal and professional, Tammy remained grounded and welcoming. There was no diva persona, no posturing. She led with kindness even as her songs captured life's deepest pain. Reba, whose own rise in the 80s and 90s came in the shadow of legends like Tammy, could have easily found herself compared or dismissed by the old guard. But there was never a trace of rivalry between them. Tammy seemed to genuinely appreciate Reba's talent and saw in her the future of the genre she had helped shape. And in turn, Reba never stopped giving Tammy credit for paving the way for women like herself. Even after Tammy's untimely passing in 1998, Reba continued to speak of her with warmth and gratitude, often citing her influence in award show speeches, interviews, and tributes. She once said that Tammy's songs felt like they were pulled from your own diary, a gift not every singer has and one Reba has tried to carry forward in her own work. In the often competitive landscape of country music, where egos can clash and generational shifts can create tension, the bond between Reba McEntire and Tammy Wynette stood apart. There was no drama, no headline-grabbing fallout, just mutual admiration between two women who sang from the heart and respected those who did the same. Tammy Wynette may have been called the first lady of country music, but to Reba McEntire, she was also a teacher, a role model, and a treasured friend in the music. And in every note Reba sings with honesty and soul, a piece of Tammy's legacy lives on. Loretta Lynn. Few relationships in the world of country music carry the warmth, sincerity, and lasting affection of Reba McEntire's admiration for Loretta Lynn. From the earliest days of her career, Reba looked up to Loretta not just as a trailblazing singer-songwriter, but as a powerful symbol of womanhood in country music, a woman who sang her truth, stood her ground, and did it all with humility and grace. Reba has never been shy about calling Loretta Lynn one of her greatest inspirations. In countless interviews across decades, she has described Loretta as one of the sweetest women you'll ever meet, and she has never wavered in that opinion. Her admiration wasn't just for Loretta's chart-topping hits like Coal Miner's Daughter or You Ain't Woman Enough, but for the fierce honesty Loretta brought to every lyric and the strength she carried through every struggle. Like with Merle Haggard, Reba once feared that meeting her hero might spoil the magic. When you grow up idolizing someone, there's always that nervous edge, that gnawing question of, what if they're not who I thought they were? Reba has shared openly that she hesitated before meeting Loretta, afraid the woman behind the microphone wouldn't live up to the icon in her mind. But instead of disappointment, what Reba found was even more beautiful than she had imagined. When they met, Loretta Lynn welcomed Reba with open arms. No diva airs, no sense of competition, just kindness and warmth. From the start, Loretta offered Reba not only encouragement but also wisdom born from years of navigating the male-dominated industry. She gave Reba advice not just about singing or touring, but about how to stay grounded, how to handle fame with grace, and how to remain true to yourself in a business that often demands compromise. It wasn't just a brief encounter, it blossomed into a lifelong bond of support and admiration. Reba has often said that Loretta's blend of strength and humility left a lasting impression on her. Loretta wasn't afraid to sing about tough topics, marriage problems, poverty, gender roles, and she did it without ever losing her dignity or humor. That fearlessness inspired Reba to explore her own storytelling in deeper, more vulnerable ways. As both women climbed to the top of country music's mountain, there was never a hint of rivalry between them. In an industry where comparisons often fuel feuds, Reba and Loretta stood apart, two queens in their own right who cheered each other on rather than competing for the crown. Reba frequently paid tribute to Loretta in interviews and on stage, and Loretta in turn spoke fondly of Reba's rise and the strength she brought to the next generation of country women. Even as the landscape of country music shifted around them, their bond remained unchanged. When Loretta fell ill in her later years, Reba was one of the many stars who publicly sent love and prayers, never missing a chance to remind the world of how much Loretta meant to her. And when Loretta passed away in 2022, Reba's tribute was among the most heartfelt, a mixture of grief, gratitude, and admiration for a woman who had meant so much both personally and professionally. In Reba's world, Loretta Lynn wasn't just a hero, she was a sister in song, a guiding light, and a cherished friend. There were no secrets, no scandal, no whispers of backstage drama, just a beautiful relationship between two women who loved the music, loved their fans, and most of all respected each other deeply. Reba once said that Loretta Lynn showed her what it meant to be tough without being bitter, famous without being fake, and successful without ever forgetting where you came from. And in many ways, that's the legacy Reba has carried forward, proof that when women in country lift each other up, the entire genre rises with them. The Chicks. Reba McEntire, long considered the queen of country music, has always exuded grace, professionalism, and southern charm. But even Reba has her limits, especially when it comes to perceived disrespect in the genre she helped define. Among her otherwise pristine reputation for diplomacy and friendliness, one feud stands out as the rare moment when Reba dropped the niceties and let her disappointment show. It was with none other than the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, and it played out on a national stage, leaving a lasting mark on the country music community. The origins of this rift trace back to 2003 when the Chicks' lead singer, Natalie Maines, ignited a firestorm during a London concert by declaring, "We're ashamed the President of the United States is from Texas." At the time, George W. Bush was still in office and America was gearing up for the Iraq War. The country music scene, largely patriotic and deeply rooted in conservative values, reacted harshly. Radio stations blacklisted the Chicks, CD burnings erupted, and once loyal fans turned their backs on the trio. Reba McEntire, a traditionalist and a symbol of country values, quietly took note. But it wasn't until 2006 that she addressed the controversy head-on, on live television, no less. While hosting the Academy of Country Music Awards, Reba delivered what would become a career-defining line, dripping with sarcasm and unmistakable sting. "If the Dixie Chicks can sing with their foot in their mouth, surely I can host this sucker." It was a bold moment, unexpected from someone known for avoiding industry drama. But the jab wasn't just about politics. For Reba, it was personal. Behind the scenes, Reba had reportedly been deeply hurt by comments the Chicks made about fans of mainstream country acts like Toby Keith and Reba herself. According to insiders, Natalie Maines had downplayed those fans as being less sophisticated or out of touch, aligning the Chicks more with progressive ideals and distancing themselves from country traditionalists. For Reba, who spent decades building an inclusive and loyal fan base, these remarks struck a nerve. In later interviews, Reba opened up more candidly about the falling out. "When somebody talks bad about my music, my family, that does not sit well with me," she said in a rare public airing of grievance. She didn't just see the attack as a political opinion. To her, it was a personal affront, an attack on the country music community that had raised her and the fans who had sustained her career. Reba also critiqued the Chicks' overall tone during that period, describing their attitude as not very nice and lacking in humility. Her disappointment was less about a single moment and more about what she saw as a pattern of disrespect, not only toward her but toward the values that country music had long stood for. In a genre where artists often steer clear of direct conflict, this feud stood out. And while the tension between Reba and the Chicks never escalated into a public war of words or social media spats like we see today, the silence that followed was just as telling. No duets, no joint appearances, no reconciliations. Over the years, both Reba and the Chicks have continued to thrive, each in their own lane. Reba leaned even further into her role as country royalty, while the Chicks evolved into bold political voices with a crossover audience. But that crack in the foundation of country sisterhood still lingers as a reminder that even in the polished world of Nashville, old wounds don't always heal. For Reba McEntire, an artist known for her warmth and class, this remains one of the very few times she publicly acknowledged a showbiz feud. And for fans, it's a moment frozen in time, the night America's sweetheart took the gloves off, if only for a minute. Barbara Mandrell. In the ever-evolving world of country music, mentorship and camaraderie among female artists are rare treasures. One of the most genuine and enduring examples of this is the bond between Reba McEntire and Barbara Mandrell, a friendship rooted not only in mutual admiration but also in shared values of hard work, humility, and stage excellence. When Reba arrived in Nashville in the late 1970s, the country scene was dominated by towering female talents, none more polished or electrifying than Barbara Mandrell. At the time, Barbara was at the peak of her career, dazzling audiences with her signature blend of musical versatility, energetic live shows, and undeniable charisma. She could sing, play multiple instruments, host a TV variety show, and command a stage with the precision of a Broadway star. For a young, up-and-coming Reba, Barbara wasn't just an artist, she was the blueprint. Reba has spoken often about how much she admired Barbara's stage presence and work ethic during those formative years. She noticed everything, from Barbara's ability to make each audience member feel seen to the way she handled herself with poise in interviews, business meetings, and backstage interactions. For Reba, who was still learning the ropes of stardom, Barbara wasn't just an idol, she was a living lesson in professionalism and poise. More importantly, Barbara didn't keep Reba at a distance. Instead of brushing off the younger singer as a newcomer, she treated Reba with warmth, encouragement, and respect. Reba has often described Barbara as gracious, talented, and classy, a woman who made room for others even when she was at the height of her fame. That kindness stuck with Reba, who later modeled her own mentorship of younger artists in a similar spirit. Barbara's influence extended beyond the spotlight. She helped pave the way for women in country music during a time when radio stations, record labels, and award shows often reserved their praise for male acts. With her trailblazing variety show, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, and her fierce presence on the charts, Barbara showed the industry and future generations that female artists could headline, entertain, and dominate with just as much power and polish as the men. Reba never forgot that example. In numerous interviews throughout her career, she's credited Barbara as one of the women who made it easier for her to find a foothold in the business. And as Reba rose to stardom herself, she carried Barbara's lessons with her, whether on the Grand Ole Opry stage, at award ceremonies, or in the way she treated her own peers and protégés. The bond between the two was always one of mutual admiration and mutual support. There was no feud, no competition, just a shared understanding of what it meant to be a woman in country music, strong, respectful, hard-working, and dignified. They belonged to different waves of country's golden era, but they stood on common ground. Even after Barbara Mandrell's retirement from performing in 1997, Reba continued to speak of her with glowing respect. Whenever asked about the women who shaped her career, Reba never failed to mention Barbara, not just for her music, but for her character. In one touching reflection, Reba remarked that Barbara showed her how to shine without stepping on anyone else to do it. Today, as Reba herself is often seen as the guiding light for newer artists, it's easy to see the echoes of Barbara Mandrell's influence. From Reba's commanding live shows to her down-to-earth interviews and dignified presence, she carries forward the lessons she learned from her early hero and friend. In the legacy of country music, Reba McEntire and Barbara Mandrell represent two generations of royalty, women who didn't just sing about strength and grace, but lived it. Their friendship is a testament to how far a little kindness and a lot of talent can go, and how honoring those who came before you can create a legacy that's not only lasting, but profoundly meaningful. Merle Haggard. In the fiercely competitive world of country music, admiration among artists is often tangled with quiet rivalries, ego clashes, or generational disconnects. But in the case of Reba McEntire and Merle Haggard, what existed was pure respect, uncomplicated, heartfelt, and lasting. While Reba has never been shy about criticizing bad behavior in the industry, she has always spoken with reverence when it comes to Merle Haggard. Early in her career, Reba was cautious about meeting her idols. Like many artists new to the spotlight, she feared the disillusionment that could come from discovering that her musical heroes were nothing like their onstage personas. As someone raised on the honesty and soul of classic country, Reba wanted to believe that the people behind those voices were as authentic as the songs they sang. But the reality of show business often tells a different story, and Reba, ever the realist, knew that. Still, Merle Haggard was one artist she couldn't help but hold in high regard from the very beginning. With his rugged voice, outlaw edge, and songwriting that dug deep into human experience, Merle had already cemented his place in country history long before Reba's star began to rise. His classics like Mama Tried, Okie from Muskogee, and If We Make It Through December weren't just hits, they were cornerstones of the genre. His influence rippled through every honky-tonk, radio station, and recording studio in Nashville. So when the opportunity finally came for Reba to meet him in person, she approached the moment with equal parts excitement and trepidation. In interviews, she's admitted that she braced herself for disappointment, not because she doubted Merle's talent, but because the music industry had taught her not to expect too much from fame. But Merle Haggard did not disappoint. Reba would later recount the encounter with warmth and sincerity, saying she was delighted to discover that Merle was just as genuine, kind, and grounded as she had always hoped. There were no airs about him, no inflated ego, and no diva behavior, just a man who loved music and treated others with quiet respect. Reba was struck by his humility, especially given his legendary status. He was exactly who I wanted him to be, she said in one interview. And for someone who built her own career on authenticity and emotional storytelling, that meant everything. Beyond his character, Reba credits Merle Haggard as a major influence on her own sound and style. His raw emotional approach to songwriting, the way he could capture heartbreak, pride, and longing in a single verse, inspired Reba to dig deeper into her own performances. His phrasing, delivery, and ability to make a song feel lived in helped shape how she approached her own material. While their voices were different, their dedication to honesty in music was the same. Unlike many relationships in country music that drift into competition or creative tension, Reba's relationship with Merle remained one of pure admiration. There was no trace of rivalry, no jostling for position, and no need to compare accolades. For Reba, Merle had already reached legendary status. Her goal was never to surpass him, but to honor what he stood for through her own music. Even after Merle's passing in 2016, Reba has continued to speak glowingly of him. She has paid tribute in interviews, on-stage performances, and social media, making it clear that her respect for him was enduring and profound. In a world where idols often fall from grace, Merle remained in her eyes the rare exception, both a hero and a role model who never let her down. For Reba McEntire, Merle Haggard was more than a country icon. He was living proof that authenticity, kindness, and talent could coexist at the highest levels of fame. And for that, she has never stopped being grateful. What do you think about the people Reba McEntire hates? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.